by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that
She's
is
not going to be
yeah.
saved by the prince.
She's not going to.
Things get worse for Rachel Zegler after her Snow White abomination, which was a $270 million gamble. But what happened after that checkout? Today, we are uncovering how Snow White became Hollywood's costliest controversy. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Box office disaster. Numbers don't lie. And despite all the controversy, they tell a brutal story. The movie Snow White opened with $42.2 million, which is slightly below the projection that the studio had. However, it still managed to top the box office due to little to no competition at that point. But then came the second season, where the film made only $14.3 million, which dropped around 66% from before. This was one of the steepest declines the studio has seen since Disney remade movies like Dumbo and the Maleficent films. As of April 2025, the film's gross stood at around $206 million worldwide. Even though this seems like a huge profit, the estimated production budget was between $240 million and $270 million. After huge marketing costs came in, Disney incurred a total loss of $115 million after all the global revenue. This made Snow White one of the most popular on social media, yet one of the most expensive failures in recent memory. To put things into perspective, the film grossed less than $150 million domestically, which underperformed Dumbo, which was another live-action movie that itself was considered one of the biggest Disney disappointments. And this is just the start of failures, because the film even struggled to connect with audiences globally, with international numbers unable to surpass the domestic ones. This begs the question, what went wrong, and how exactly did the iconic Snow White not do as well as some of the other Disney princess movies? Now we'll discuss the whole controversy timeline, and how the movie that could have been the biggest star of the show went from hero to zero real quick. The crazy part is that it happened within a few weeks of the movie's release. Yet the controversy has followed it ever since its actress, Rachel Zegler, began promoting it in interviews and posts. The controversies.
She's going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Rachel Zegler's problems with Snow White started way before the movie was even released. She was cast in June 2021, where she immediately faced harsh backlash for being a Latina actress playing a character that would traditionally be played by a white actor. However, her own comments would compound the controversy exponentially, making the film itself controversial. This ultimately also became the film's downfall. As soon as her cast was released, people on social media started saying that she looked way too Indian or brown-skinned for playing a role that was always for a white woman. But did you know it was weird comments that started it all? It wasn't Rachel's fault, but there are two sides to the story, and it was just bound to happen. Comments.
Fans are growing more concerned about Disney's new Snow White remake, mostly because of what the lead actress has been saying to the press.
It happened during promotional interviews in 2022, when Zegler said the original 1937 film was outdated and focused on a love story in which the guy literally stalks her. This was her going against the original Snow White concept, which sparked immediate controversy. But there's more. In another interview, she said that in her version of Snow White, the prince wouldn't save her and wouldn't be dreaming about true love. For fans who loved the original Snow White, this wasn't a nice experience. It was Rachel bashing their beloved childhood princess. Many people on social media, like Instagram, started pointing out other actresses, like Halle Bailey in The Little Mermaid, who navigated similar situations, but did so with more grace, highlighting updates without criticizing the original theme of the movie. So when Rachel started spreading news about the changes in this new version of Snow White, the backlash was immediate and intense. Then, over a year later, in her cover interview with Cosmopolitan, Zegler revealed that people went so far as to go to her apartment to yell at her in person, describing the harassment that she faced for just being brown and having brown skin. Political controversy. The original film criticism was controversial in itself, but Zegler's political statement turned it into a nuclear fission reaction. It all happened on August 12, 2024, after sharing the Snow White trailer's success. Zegler added an afterthought in the same post, saying, "Free Palestine," This single tweet got 8.8 million views, which was nearly 4 times the number for the initial traitor post. The timing couldn't be worse, because behind the scenes, that threat towards Zegler's co-star, Gal Gadot, who is Israeli, spiked to the next level. Disney even had to pay for additional security for the mother of 4. Then Mark Platt, the producer of the movie, flew all the way to New York to speak directly to Zegler about the studio's concern. But she still refused to delete the post, and then came the November 2024 election, when Donald Trump won. He started posting things like, "May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace." Many conservative commentators started calling her a pig and demanded that Disney fire her from Snow White. After receiving these threats, Zegler later apologized, saying that she let her emotions get the best of her and that hatred and anger had caused them to move further and further away from peace. But at this point, the damage was already done. Disney had already paid the price by becoming a controversial social media studio. Remember how we talked about Gal Gadot a little bit earlier? Things were about to get much worse for her and Zegler. But before we move into more controversies, make sure to hit the subscribe button, because that's where the real spark will begin. Gal Gadot. Adding fuel to the fire were the rumors of tension between Gal Gadot and Zegler. These two actresses couldn't be more different politically. Gadot was an Israeli who even served in the IDF. She had always been pro-Israel, while Zegler, on the other hand, was equally as vocal in her support for Palestine. When they presented together at the Academy Awards on the 2nd of March 2025, the mood was quite different than what we saw before. The two actresses did not share a joke. Many sources told People magazine that the actresses have nothing in common, also citing their age difference. This is because Gadot was 39 with 4 children, while Zegler was only 23. Moreover, the political views were just as different between them as they were. But in the Variety magazine report, they detailed much of the behind-the-scenes drama, showing there was no bad blood between the two Snow White actresses, despite reports from other media groups that claimed otherwise. Still, the setting was terrible, because Zegler referred to Gadot as a professional pageant queen in one Instagram reply, which many found dismissive. What's crazy is that after Snow White's release and poor performance, Zegler even unfollowed Gadot on Instagram, though Gadot continued to follow her back. By the time Snow White premiered, Disney was in full, contentious mode. The studio suppressed the Hollywood premiere, while also permitting only photographers and the house crew at the film's March 15 premiere. This also reduced the number of journalists who could potentially ask some of the hardest questions. What's crazy is that the studio even separated the two actresses during promotional events. At the premiere itself, many people noted that Zegler sat 2 rows ahead of Gal Gadot and her family. The promotional circuit was quite carefully choreographed to minimize any joint appearances amidst so much political spark. The studio found itself in such an awkward position because it was too invested to back out, while also watching its expensive investment become nothing more than a controversial bag of sack. In the middle, Rachel was receiving a lot of political encouragement too. But overall, even she didn't know what was coming for her. Things were only getting worse for her. But Gal Gadot, on the other hand, knew how to handle fame and controversy the right way, since she's been through a lot already. Why Snow White failed. Behind closed doors, industry analysts offered a much more logical answer to Snow White's failure. People disagreed with the view that the film's underperformance was due to political controversies, and instead said that it was due to its failure to resonate with both critics and audiences. You see, the film also had mixed reviews at best. On Rotten Tomatoes, we can see that there were only 39% of reviews that are positive, with a Metascore of 50 out of 100. That means the film was split into 2 categories. Gal Gadot's appearance was also controversial, which was on par with the CGI dwarves that we saw in the movie. Moreover, the CGI characters themselves became such a source of hate for the fans out there. Moreover, the criticism from Peter Dinklage about stereotypical portrayals of dwarfism also instigated a lot of controversy. This was because Disney replaced the live-action brush that we've already seen with mere CGI-oriented magical creatures, which is a decision that itself backfired quite heavily when audiences found them to be nothing more than creepy and lifeless at best. At this point, Disney's live-action remakes have also been facing poor results. The billion-dollar movies like Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King, which all came out before 2020, were also more of a wreck. And before Snow White, it was The Little Mermaid that sparked a lot of controversy in itself due to the actress being black. The new Lion King also made less than half of its predecessor's movies, despite being a success. The aftermath. So, after everything, where did Rachel Zegler go from there? Currently, the actor is performing to sold-out crowds in the West End production of Evita, and honestly, her talent has never been in question, even in Snow White's harshest environments, where everyone was against her. But after the Snow White movie, her films have been limited. As of this video, she has not officially announced any movie projects that are in the works. There are talks on the internet that Zegler was dropped from some of the most promising movies like Toy Story 5 and The Pirates of the Caribbean, even though this was never officially confirmed. But there is a unique irony if we think about it. Because before all this, Zegler had a momentum that was promising, and she could have become the next big actor in Hollywood. Her performance in movies like The Hunger Games was well received, and the film earned $349 million worldwide, while she won a Golden Globe for West Side Story. However, in Hollywood, talent isn't enough because your public reputation matters a lot too. A lot of people also observe there's a troubling pattern because young actresses are being held to different standards than their male counterparts. After Robert Pattinson openly criticized Twilight, he was actually loved for his honesty. But when Rachel Zegler criticized a 1,937 film's outdated elements, she was vilified. The double standard became real. But it also cost an actress her future. While the whole debate about whether or not Rachel Zegler was right is up for debate, it's just that she could have avoided everything with media training and strategic communication. She could have also managed her political views at another time. And thirdly, the reality is that no amount of controversy can save a mediocre film. However, a little amount of controversy can surely destroy one, which happened in this case. Do you think Rachel's downfall is the biggest one in this decade? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe for spicy Hollywood drama.